Happy Monday, everybody, and welcome into the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast presented by Ingles, the official supermarket of Gramlich and Mac Lane. Mac was just reminding me of one time where I forgot to press record, and that's why he is laughing. But we pressed record this time. Mac, this is maybe the best week of the summer. Okay? I am so excited. We are doing a women's basketball week on the Gramlich and Mac Lane podcast. And we have quite a few big names that we're going to talk with. Of course, ACC focused, ACC flavor, the best conference in the country, as we know, Mac. And we're going to start with two of the new coaches in the league today, Coach Megan Duffy for Virginia Tech and Coach Shawn Poppie for Clemson. These interviews were so great. And Mac, I know you're going to have Amelia listening to them. You're going to get her baby headphones and make sure she's locked in, because basically, just being honest, Mac asked for a scholarship from both of these coaches for Amelia. So I guess Amelia's already starting her recruiting journey.
Well, and it was interesting. Only one confirmed. So I don't know if Virginia Tech's like already out at a year and a half. You know, we got 17 more years to go till we can officially
Coach
commit.
Duffy, she's got to do her due diligence. You know, she hasn't even seen Amelia play yet.
Hey, listen, you look at mom and dad and you just know you make an offer. Okay. You know what I'm saying? You got to understand what you're dealing with right here. She's going to be no, I'm just kidding. Maybe we'll see. Who knows? If she plays great. But it was fun. It was super fun. I love doing this. Love branching out. You know, we're doing a little women's basketball, doing a little hoops, and it was fun hearing kind of both of their, just perspectives on the job, on how to handle the job, this new environment. Both said they had a press conference, then a recruiting deal or a call or something that day. So it just goes to show you, it's not just college football that's affected, which you and I talk about all the time. It is literally every college sport, and they're affected so differently. So that was fun perspectives, but also just to hear how they both, which I think all great coaches do this, they're ready to adapt to whatever they have. You know, they kind of have what they do and who they are as coaches and maybe what has got them to certain places, but they know that you can't do it without X player. We're going to do what we have and what works. So that was a lot of fun to me, KG, and just hearing all of those different things. I really enjoyed that conversation.
Yeah. And two really exciting young coaches. I think they're probably about the same age. I won't say anybody's age here on the podcast, but I think they are. And inheriting two different situations. I mean, Coach Duffy inheriting the program that just won the ACC regular season, right? A program that has been putting 8,000-9,000 people in the stands. I was calling all those games. It was amazing. Yeah. And I do think that fan support will continue, but the expectations are still going to be high. And Coach Duffy was talking about that. She knows. But it's a great job. And then Clemson, we talked about this with Coach Poppie, sleeping giant nature, similar to what Virginia Tech was maybe 10 years ago. Can he get that fan support back and get them back to the tournament for the first time since 2019? So excited for both of them. I think they're two great additions to this league. And Mac, I know you've heard some of this. Let me be the voice here that knows the game. The ACC is the best women's basketball league in the country.
Say it again.
People say different things. And that happens in football too, Mac, right? Like everyone's trying to say this and that. It's just so funny. But I think that the results speak for themselves, but that's just me. I don't know.
That's what y'all do in hoops. That's what y'all do. We need to carry up our end of the deal and make that happen as well, which we will. Before we get to these interviews, KG, we're in the thick of summer. What's going on? We just had a massive beach day. Amelia Rose is doing her thing in the water, looking like a little baby shark. She loves the water, doing her thing. So what do we have on the docket? Any trips, going anywhere? We keep asking all these coaches this, but we need to check in with us.
I know. We deserve vacation. Well, Mac, it's officially less than a month to my birthday, so let the countdown begin. Birthday month is approaching, and I know that you are preparing accordingly. Right. And July is kind of going to be our month to do stuff, so very excited about some upcoming situations and trips. Can't wait. But Mac, speaking of Ingles, we're recording this a week early, so I may have already posted this. I am trying a TikTok recipe this evening, and I'm literally going to go to Ingles right after we finish recording this intro here. And it's a feta pasta. Basically, you just put a chunk of feta in the middle of a dish, add a bunch of tomatoes, and you cook it, and it melts and makes your sauce.
Sounds great.
I just hit my hair because I'm so excited. I'm heading over to the cheese section at Ingles, and I will let you know how it goes. I'll report back.
Come on. Well, that sounds fantastic. And you know that we just continue to just roll through the meat.
Do you only eat meat?
It's funny.
Have you seen those diets? It's just like meat, water, and salt or something.
What else what else is there to eat? No, I'm kidding. I have I'm pretty lucky. I just like food. I like good food. I'm not one of those people that are super picky about, oh, I don't eat
No,
eggs. And there's
no.
some things, I guess, but in general, fruits, veggies, pasta, meat, whatever. I love just
You
good
don't
food. And
discriminate.
I don't discriminate. And Ingles is the perfect place not to discriminate on good food because they've got it going on. And of course, they've been supplying our meat all summer long. We're doing some more steaks later this week. I cannot wait. You guys will see that all over social media. And I'm going to throw in a little lobster too. It's going to be fun. We're doing a little surf and turf at the house. Big Cannon's coming over, so we got to treat him right. Treat him like the king that he is. So it's
Yeah.
that's going to be a fun night.
Look, Mac lives well. All right. I'm just trying to get my feta to melt.
It's because Ingles.
All because of Ingles. All right. So that being said, if you're cooking lobster, let Mac know because that's what he's doing. We are going to start with Coach Duffy, and then we'll get to Coach Poppie. And then we'll talk to you at the end of the episode. But really excited for this. Coach Megan Duffy, head coach at Virginia Tech, and then Coach Shawn Poppie, head coach at Clemson. Let's get into it. Coach Duffy, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the podcast. We know that you have had a whirlwind couple of months, I would say, in Blacksburg. So how are things going so far?
Well, thanks for having me on, guys. It's good to see you. I've watched you from afar, so this is exciting to be on with you today. It's been amazing. Time flies when you're having fun, as the old saying goes. I feel like the first couple weeks were just wild and crazy. A lot of change, a lot of transition. You're trying to solidify your roster. I was trying to look back to when I started at Marquette 5 years ago, some similarities, and there were definitely some similarities. But then, it's a new wave with college athletics in a lot of ways, but it's been really good. We're finally settled into Blacksburg, into our new house, and really putting the true roots down now.
I love that. That's so fun. And speaking of Blacksburg, I'm sorry, KZ, we got a little delay, Coach. Here we go. Well, speaking of Blacksburg, Coach, we were just talking before we started recording, and you were saying Hokie Nation loves their women's basketball. We know that. We feel it. We see it, and we do too. So how have they welcomed you? I mean, I know that has to be so fun stepping into this program.
Hokie Nation is incredible. And to be honest with you, it was a huge reason why I decided to be the new head coach here, just because of what had been built. They're so into our student athletes, just extremely supportive. They want to get to know them. And anytime you have a program where when that team runs out of the tunnel, you look up and it's just a sellout crowd with what's happening with women's basketball. It's incredible. So I'm so fortunate to now be a part of it. I've gotten to know, some of our fans in different ways, whether that's just going to the grocery store. There's been people who have, just asked if they could come by. It's just a tight knit community here in Blacksburg. So it's a little bit of a different kind of change for me, but one that, my husband and I are really excited about. And I just can't tell you, everybody's just really nice, and they just can't wait for the season and asking how the girls are. But I got to watch from afar just the college game day scene from earlier in the year, and just some of the television games where it was like, man, these people, our student body, are really into it. And now that I'm a part of it and a key piece of this, it's going to be really, really great.
It is, Coach. Like I have called so many games there over the past couple of years, was there for college game day. It's just different. That's what I tell people. It's different, and it's hard to explain until you're there and you experience which I know you've experienced it so far. I know your first game, you can't wait for that. But you mentioned kind of taking Marquette versus this job. Things are so different now. Like what were your first steps? Did you call players? Were you already looking in the portal like on day one? I mean, how does that work when you take a new job in this current world?
Well, I tell you what, no profession is like this. It
No.
doesn't feel like. I mean, usually if you change jobs, you get a 2-week notice and you get to kind of, tie up some loose ends and, spend time with your coworkers or your friends. And it's just not like that, right or wrong. And, you have to say goodbye to your current team, which is one of the hardest things in this whole process, because they've become your family. You spend so much time together. Obviously, we had some great teams at Marquette. And then with social media now, you're trying to link it up. As soon as you say, hey, you're leaving Marquette, the release comes out with Virginia Tech. And I was literally on the phone within seconds and, jumping on a plane the next day. And so it's a whirlwind, but if you've been in this business a lot, you understand it. And it's really hard to keep everybody happy with all of that. And I've always been somebody that wants to try and do it the right way. And so it's a challenge because you want to write thank you notes. You want to call people and just say, thanks so much for this. And the way the climate is now with, you have to get your roster set. You have to make sure your current team is staying, let alone like high school recruits and AAU and all of that. Like that becomes a little quick secondary in that portal time. So it's just a lot of hours. I'm fortunate, I got to hire a really, really good staff that helped me along with it. And our administration was super supportive with just guiding me through, how tech operates, what we have to kind of get accomplished. But it's been a lot of hours, but a lot of fun with it. I think I'm always at my best if there's a little bit of a challenge ahead. And I've really taken that ownership of trying to, sustain the excellence of Virginia Tech women's basketball. And I know I'm appreciative of what, Coach Brooks has done here. And now moving forward, our goals are to make the next great Hokie team relevant and stay at the top of that ACC.
So, Coach, I love what you said there and just how this landscape is ever evolving, right? Like it's changing. It seems like every day with a new court case or a new ruling or a new rule and all these different things happen. What was, I guess, the biggest difference to you from when you took the Marquette job to this? Like, was there any easing into then versus now? Because truly you have to hit it sprinting. What was the biggest difference there?
I think we all came into this business and this profession is to help student athletes, right? We love the game of basketball. We want to teach it. We want to inspire. We want to mentor young people. And I think we're constantly challenged to remember that, right? Because there's so many different things like you mentioned. And now that was really important to me to build relationships with my current team and hit the ground recruiting. But the other piece that I think is probably the biggest difference is there's just such a different business side. You have to understand, and stay up with the court cases. You have to lean on your administration to educate you on things that happen at your particular institution. Conversations on the phone used to be about, different finishes in the paint and, the style of offense you run and all the, how do you motivate? How do you inspire your team? And, tell me about your family. And that still is still the case, but I think there's also another, piece that we're trying to educate families about NIL. Our goal is not to have you in the portal in, 9-10 months. And we never had those conversations before. Right. So I just think it's a different level of business talk, I guess I would say, versus, I think a lot of us still categorize us as, teachers and mentors. And what I'm trying to find the balance as somebody, I still say fairly young in this business, right? I feel like I got a couple decades left in me. Like I still want to hold true to that old school mentality of, you got to work as hard as you can. You got to do it the right way. You got to have a great attitude and then learn as we go how this new landscape is shaping and leaning on, a circle around you at your university and, people who have always inspired you to help you get through this other part because it's constantly changing. Like what I heard yesterday could be different from an article I read today, and then how that fits in with Virginia Tech. So it's all interesting. I'm a lifelong learner, so I like that piece of it, but I think the decision-making part can be challenging at times.
Yeah, I love that. And KG, she said she has a couple of decades left in her. So my daughter, Amelia Rose, will be around that, maybe the end of what you just said there. She's going to be a combo guard, probably on the taller end. So just get ready for her. She would love to be in Blacksburg.
I love it. That's great, Eric.
We'll keep an eye.
Class of like, wow, we got to do the math, right?
Yeah, something of that nature. Something.
She is the daughter of 2 Clemson alums. Coach Poppie might have something to say. We might have a recruiting battle here, but we don't need to get into that. Coach, something that I feel like people don't, maybe your average Hokie fan doesn't necessarily understand that I want to talk about is this staff that you've assembled because, and I'm biased because I played for Coach Coleman at Clemson and love her. And then, so you have a former ACC head coach. You have Jen Hoover, who is the best coach in Wake Forest history and the best player, maybe Dearica Hamby, when you look at her success, but best player in Wake Forest history. Like to have 2 former ACC coaches, head coaches on your staff is crazy. What kind of knowledge do they bring for you?
I am so fortunate and blessed to have been able to get the staff I did. I always had this vision. If I took a step from Marquette, if it would happen, when it would happen, I would love to make sure I have a chance to get the best of the best, from a standpoint of human beings, basketball coaches, motivators, I mean, all of the above. And just when it all kind of started to unfold, obviously, you bring a few of your people from Marquette, you kind of, take a piece of the landscape of who would want to come work for me, to be in the ACC. They've seen Virginia Tech's success. It's just kind of a story that you're trying to kind of put together and find those pieces. Okay, so I'm making phone calls. Atora worked with me at Marquette for a year, and then Carolina stole her, and then I tease, I'm like, and I stole her back. But in all seriousness, like, she's a great human being, great coach. I mean, just the energy in our hallway right now and our offices, I wish you all could just, be a fly on the wall with it. And it's anything from hard conversations and decisions we have to make, to laughing hysterically, to figuring out, like, we did a taste test yesterday of, like, I'm a big dessert person, which is bad, but I am. And we were trying to find some of the local vendors that, we could have for, some recruiting trips and some team things we were doing. And so we're trying all these cookies, and it's like, just laughing about people's, preference with that. And so we're having so much fun. I came into the office, it might've been a couple weeks ago, and they were already in full conversations about, it went from recruiting to X's and O's. I mean, it's our support staff and our coaching staff, like, just the dynamic. It just seems like we've been working together forever. And I've been just rejuvenated with that, just to be able to come in and love the people around me. And I just can't wait to see where we're going with this. And then to have, Atora, Jen Hoover, who's been a head coach, like I said, I'm a lifelong learner, and, any pieces of advice or suggestions that they have is only going to make our program better. And then you talk about Charnay Zoll-Norman, who is a rising star in this business. She played professionally for 11 years, and we were actually teammates overseas.
Wow.
Like, my last year playing, we were on a team in Romania together and got to know each other, obviously, as friends and teammates. And then I was bothering her a couple of times that I'd love for her to, to work together at some point together. And here we are. So the fact that it all came to fruition is really cool. And I know they're going to be a huge piece of the success, and they're very, very intelligent coaches. And, they just bring the energy every day. And I think if, people haven't gotten to know them more, sometimes I have to do all this, but when you get to know them in our community and out in the basketball world, people are going to be blown away.
I love that. And I think it's fascinating too. You talk about being a lifelong learner. When you just surround yourself, with those minds and with people that have done so much and can keep doing so much, it just equates to great things. So what can Hokie fans expect to see on the court with all of that? Is it going to be similar to, what you guys did at your last stop? Is it going to be all new, just seeing what we have and taking all these ideas together? What's the style of play look like for Hokies?
Well, it's a great question. I think, one of the things that I learned a long time ago is one of the most important things you decide on is what you want to run with your team. And, Coach McGraw was somebody that mentioned that. She probably doesn't remember, but years ago. And I think I've had a certain style at some different places I've been, but it's so critical right now with the team I have in my first year that we meet what they can do. And we take a little bit, obviously, from Marquette. My teams at Marquette were always really, really tough. We exceeded expectations at times. We played both sides of the ball. And, I want to definitely take those qualities and those characteristics to our program here at Tech. Charges, loose balls, all the simple things that you can control that sometimes not everybody wants to do. And then what's been really kind of good for myself and my programs in the past is, as every coach wants to get out and play fast and transition, but we've shared the ball at a really high clip. So we always look at, assists per made basket, and, can we get a instead of a good shot, we get a great shot, all those cliche things you talk about. But we were able to win a lot of games like that with, being able to share and move the ball, space the floor, have a lot of cuts. We try and emulate a pro style. If you turned on a little bit of the NBA games or the WNBA games, you want to see some similarities to that, which we have and will have. And I think that the coolest part right now, when you have a new team and a very, very young team, is, how much can they do, right? What do you want to kind of install? And I know I'm going to be really adaptable to them and their play and how much they can improve over the course of this summer and this early fall. And obviously the goal is to have your best product in March. So I love a little bit of the Princeton. I love a little bit of ball screen continuity. I can get real nerdy right now if you guys want me to, but I just think making sure we fit our young women right now at the stage they're at is really important.
This really fits because someone who I know loves a ball screen is Muffet McGraw. So that makes a lot of sense there. And speaking of coach, you bring up Coach Muffet McGraw, who you played for at Notre Dame. And I was around her when you got that job. And then, of course, when I think we talked to you in Cleveland, maybe we did something there. She's so proud of you. She's so excited for you. What did you learn? That's a huge question, but you played for her. I know she's been a mentor for you. Like what parts of Coach McGraw do you hope you can kind of take with you that have shaped you?
I mean, I'd be silly if I didn't take a lot of the things I learned playing for her at Notre Dame. And, I think Coach and I had a great relationship when I was a player and she was my head coach. And, sometimes we didn't have to talk a lot. We just were in sync with, expectations and how hard you had to play. And we were both very competitive people. So that aligned right off the bat. And then one of the things that I think now, as I look back at kind of what that experience was like, and I know I talk to families about in my current team is just, there's something to be said. She had that perfect balance of pushing me to my max and helping me reach my potential, but also that love and care, that tough love, and that blending of both was really, really impressive. And sometimes you don't know when you're going through it what that means, but she always, gave me a new challenge every day. I remember she sent me home one day. We were doing the triangle offense, like from the old Chicago Bulls days. Yeah. At some point in my career, and she goes, and I was a young point guard, and she goes, there were two players on my team, Jackie Batiste, who ended up being an All-American, and Alicia Ratai, from the Chicago area that was on the national championship team back in 01. And she goes, I need you to get these two people and maneuvered around in the triangle. Now it's a little bit of kind of read and react and, get those two people in the right spot so they can do this. And I'm looking at her and I'm like, is she giving me homework right now? And I remember going home and literally getting a notebook out and trying to figure out how I could do it. And I didn't know if she was going to ask me the next day in practice to set it up. And by God, she did. And she said, all right, Meg, get Alicia and Jackie in the right spots. And I obviously listened and did it, which was really good. Smartest thing I ever did. But just stuff like that helped me build my IQ and pushing me to new levels. I think now as I take a step back as a coach, and since she's been retired and she's busy in a different way, but she was so into obviously her teams and winning games and all that. Now that she's retired, it's so cool just to be able to pick up the phone, and whether that's once a week, once every 2 months, whatever it is, and just say, hey, what do you think about that? Has been great. I always respected how prepared she was. Yeah. And that's something that I, hold true to my heart as a coach now, of just being prepared, whether that's, spending time with your players, the X's and O's side. Nobody, I don't think, outworked her. And what's cool now with the changing times, if you can be prepared 90% of the time, and then when things start to kind of change or go awry or whatever, you have the capacity to change it. And I loved watching her as a coach with that. So I always, relate back to the preparation it takes to be great.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that's such a great thing to have when you have such a legendary coach, to lean on and talk about and have advice, but also harness all those lessons, that she kind of taught you going into this first year. And I know there's going to be crazy expectation, and there should be. I mean, it's just what the Hokies have been able to do at Virginia Tech. But for you, goal-wise, I mean, how do you harness all this momentum? How do you harness the fans, the energy? And what do you expect from yourself, but also from this team, going into this first season?
Yeah, there's going to be great expectations here. We love that part. We want, our fan base and our alums and supporters to expect the best. I think a little bit of the difference this year is we're going to be pretty young. We're going to have obviously, a mix of some returners who, have kind of waited their turn to play a little bit more, and they get that opportunity, which will be really exciting to see. With that, there'll be some growing pains, I'm sure. And then you bring in some freshmen and a transfer that, we have to blend together. And I think for me, like, especially with this year, I try not to get too far ahead of what we're doing. Our team comes back in about 2 weeks, and we have our 8-week session where we're just really going to build our culture, our standards, really see what we can do from a skill side, from an IQ side, from a competitor side. And I've never been somebody that just says, okay, we need to win this many games, or this is where we're going to fall in the ACC. I honestly don't care too much about that. And I think that's why I've been successful with a lot of my teams. We put our blinders on and just go to work. And I think that's going to be so important that, Hokie Nation understands that, and that I stay consistent with that, along with our coaching staff, to make sure we kind of not worry about all the hoopla and the stuff around us, and just really figure out a way to improve every single day and build our chemistry with each other. And I'm excited to see, especially what some of our returners can do. Obviously, the seniors that, graduated here, and were phenomenal. I mean, I can't tell you the respect I have for them and what they've built here. So it's kind of going to be also cool to see those players that, watched a little bit or had maybe a different role, what they're going to be like when they have to score more, or they have to guard the best player on the other team, and the challenges that come with that. So I'm really looking forward to guiding them through that process.
I'm looking forward to seeing kind of that next step from Karis Baker and Carly Wenzel and Eck, who, gosh, love watching her shoot the ball. It's going to be fun. And of course, we're asking these questions on May 31st. So you've got a lot of time to figure that out. But last one for you, Coach, and you mentioned this, you alluded to this, kind of embracing that previous era, putting your own stamp on it, but also embracing the success. We talked to Whit Babcock about retiring Liz Kitley's jersey, which, easiest decision ever. Y'all are going to do that early in the season. So how important is it to you to embrace that and use that? I mean, in recruiting, let's be frank, but also kind of make your own stamp. I mean, how do you do that?
I 100% agree with all the comments. Like, I'm really trying to honor what was built. It's so hard to win. And there's been some programs around the country who can win and some who haven't been able to. And I think that's a little bit of my track record. I've always tried to be at places where, you feel like you can be successful. And I think there's something to be said to honor the past and learn from the past. And obviously it's a new era, it's a new wave. But at the same time, I want to be myself. I want to be the high energy person that I am, and, kind of blend the past, and then really excited about this future. Even when we're on the recruiting trail, just the energy of people with the coaching staff we have, our goals will remain the same here. And that's, to hopefully win a national championship someday and be in a Final Four. And the way these conferences are expanding, who the heck knows how you get there, right? Like, I mean, it used to be if you finish this and then you want to host it with the tournament, there were some formulas, but now as we keep expanding, it's like, what will that even mean? So that's why I want to have that balance of past and present and future, and, keep being myself, and, getting on the road recruiting, and, loving these current players up and developing them, and doing it the right way. I just think there's still a great passion when some people are getting frustrated at the way this business and this game is going. I'm trying to, obviously understand that, but then keep saying I can be one of the ones that can be a great leader in this process for not only our team, but, hopefully for women's basketball too.
Love that, Coach. Yeah, and we'll see. Maybe 12 teams from the ACC make the NCAA tournament. Who knows with all these additions? It's going to be wild, but can't wait to cover it. Really appreciate your time, Coach, and best of luck in the upcoming season, which will be here before you know it, but I know it's only May.
It's time to discover the convenience and time savings of contact-free pickup with Ingles Curbside. Just visit shop.ingles-markets.com or download the app. And your Ingles personal shopper gets to work with specialized training on how to select the freshest items for a pre-scheduled pickup. They'll even text you with updates. You pull up to a designated space and your personal shopper delivers your items right to your vehicle. Fresh, fast, and affordable. It's all in the bag. Ingles, low prices, love the savings.
Coach Shawn Poppie, we're so excited to have you on the podcast today. We got tiger paws all across.
Everybody's wearing tiger paws.
Podcast.
Come on, it's a great day. It's a great day.
Yes, Mac didn't get the purple memo, but whatever, we'll work on it. Coach, you have had a whirlwind, new head coach, new women's head coach here at Clemson. How's it been? How have the last 2 months been for you?
Whirlwind, to say the least. You get a job like this, obviously there's so much excitement. The Clemson family's a real thing, and so you're getting what I felt like paraded around to everyone here at Clemson, and That part was phenomenal. It's been such a warm welcome, but then you're transitioning right into trying to build a roster fast while you're also putting a staff together.
Yeah.
I was fortunate enough to bring, a handful with me from Chattanooga, which was great. Not only coaching staff, but obviously a couple players too, to add to that roster. I joke around about it. We had our press conference on a Tuesday at noon, and at 2:00 we had our first visit, and we're driving around golf carts, and she's asking about buildings, and we're like, I'm not really sure. It's a pretty building, and here's the facilities. And long story short, it was good enough that she chose us, and so. But that's kind of been, if you talk about whirlwind, and I could give you an explanation, that right there would be kind of how the last 6 weeks has been.
I love that.
Sure.
That is amazing. That is amazing. Well, let's talk about the process just a little bit, and deciding to join the Tigers, deciding to join the Clemson family. What was that like? What was appealing? Why did you make that decision? I think we probably already know because KG and I did this as well. But just from your perspective, I'd love to hear that, and your family, of course, as well.
Absolutely. First and foremost, we love Chattanooga, and we love what we were building there. The people were phenomenal. The city of Chattanooga was great to raise a family. And that's kind of what I've always been. Just put your head down and work. And if something comes, maybe you listen, but it's not planned, right? I had no 2 years here and we're going to go to Clemson, and so, get that phone call from Graham and Stephanie, and boy, it was supposed to be a 30-minute, very just introductory meeting. And I think an hour and 10 minutes into the call, I'm like, boy, this sure feels like a family, right? And that's a word that we always use at Chattanooga. It's a big belief of how I've run my programs or been a part of a program. And so that initially was like, wow, we got to really listen, right? See what this place is all about. I'm familiar with Clemson in a bunch of ways. Again, I went to school here in the upstate at Limestone College, got into coaching there, spent a number of years, obviously, with them, and then USC Upstate and Furman. And so I had my college roommates were Clemson guys. I'd been down here hopefully this don't get out too far, but at the frat parties in 2004, right? Like I sat up at the very top of football games on Saturdays because Limestone didn't have football back
Come on.
And I was just getting IDs of student IDs of some of the people that didn't make it out of the frat to be a student, right? Like that was me back in the early 2000s. And here I am sitting across the street in the chair of the women's basketball program. It's just a surreal feeling. But you then transition to Virginia Tech. So I had a front row seat as we would come here, and you always just felt like, wow, it could be a really special place. And then to get to talk with Graham and Stephanie and really everybody, President Clements, it's been a full circle of everyone has synergy and moving in one direction. And that became for me and my wife was, wow, we feel like our family could be part of the Clemson family, and kind of how we do things, I think really fits very, very together to make this place special. So when Graham and Stephanie called to fly into Chattanooga to meet me, Graham brings his wife and wants my wife to come out. Like it wasn't just a Coach Poppie thing, it was a family thing. And that was kind of really the last straw for me, was like, okay, let's go make this thing happen.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up, because if you weren't, I wasn't going to. But we all know that Kristen was the one that got this deal done, and your wife. And so I'm glad that they could get together and settle up and make something happen. That was good.
I'm gonna go ahead and share this story, and hopefully Graham doesn't get mad if he listens to this thing. So we're in an interview, right? I'm on the tarmac, in a sense, of Chattanooga Airport with Graham and the crew, and Kristen had come in. And my wife's like, what do I do? What do we talk about? I don't really know. And of course, my 3 hours, it's all business, right? Like I'm trying to sell why it could be a perfect fit. And Kristen and Regina, my wife, had went to coffee, and we obviously all meet back together right around lunchtime and go our separate ways. We get in the car, and Regina's like, you got the job, right? And I'm like, well, I think I did a pretty good job. She says, well, the way Kristen's talking, this is it.
Just don't mess it up, Shawn.
Don't mess it up. I said, well, I wish you would have told me that before you went to coffee.
Okay, more behind the scenes. So Graham and I had been chatting different times, and I said, go get Shawn Poppie. Like that's literally what I said. And he goes, well, I think it went well. Kristen did her job. So hopefully we're good. And I was like, this is great. But so, okay, you mentioned Virginia Tech, and I think there are a lot of similarities between Virginia Tech and Clemson in a lot of ways. We were just kind of talking about football before we started this. Obviously, the football piece, the really loyal fan base, the kind of the rural feel, like you're not in a big city, and that's what people love about Clemson, what people love about Virginia Tech. And for people who are maybe Clemson fans who are tuning in and don't really know, Shawn was there with Kenny Brooks that built Virginia Tech into a power. And what's crazy about Virginia Tech is just 10 years ago, Virginia Tech was, for lack of a better term, bad. Like it was just night and day what you guys did at Virginia Tech. And Clemson, I think, also has that sleeping giant feel. Big brand, big fan base, has basketball success in the past, but not a lot recently, at least on the women's side. Coach Butler did make the tournament. I want to give her credit for that because that was a big deal, what she did in, I think it was 2019. But do you see some of those parallels, Coach, with Virginia Tech and Clemson?
100%. That was part of my pitch when I talked to Graham. Is it almost mirrors what we did at Virginia Tech, and also you think back even deeper. Kenny Brooks was a Virginia guy, so he had kind of watched the program from afar and felt like it could be a sleeping giant. Obviously, I joined his staff as an assistant coach and believed in him. And then in a sense took the blueprint, right? How he did things, I think really shaped me of how I wanted to become a head coach, different personality, but the blueprint stays the same. And that was very similar to this program. And then now me as the leader, I've been around, I've seen this program, this university from afar, and you felt like, wow, it could be a sleeping giant. Then you get all the details. You're like, there's no doubt, right? And now we just got to get the right people on board and get this thing moving forward. But that was part of the pitch. Absolutely. I feel very, very positive that we can do what we did at Virginia Tech because it mirrors a lot of the same things that we just did.
Yeah, how powerful. And I'm sure as Graham's hearing that, he's like, okay, I like this. I like what you're putting down there because of you have that real life tangible thing of this just happened. And I think, for a lot of ways, there's some things that you can build on. There's some things that you can grasp, facilities, location, all these different things. So, really just continue to sell and get players in there. Before we jump into some personnel and KG has this great list of gals that we want to jump into and get your opinion on. But, just in regards to style of play, who you are as a coach, what you guys want to bring, what can the Clemson family expect to see, from the Tigers, each and every game on the court?
Yeah. And it's part of our sales pitch really is for us on the offensive side, we'll continue to evolve as the talent level continues to get better and better and we develop, right? Like that's a staple of who we are. We're going to develop young people. And that changes how you play because kids are getting better, right? And I think that's exciting for young people to say, hey, this isn't my system regardless offensively. So when you outgrow it, good luck, right? We're going to continue to get add things in. And I think the best coaches in the country offensively make little wrinkles and changes to how you play. I do believe in space and sharing the ball, and you got to shoot the three, in my opinion, to space the floor.
That's all I wanted to hear. Thank you. Next, yeah. That's all I wanted to hear. I'm just
yeah, we like to celebrate, absolutely, and whatever all the talking smack out there is a good thing for us. Humble confidence. We are going to share it though. It's not a stand and watch one person go to work. I think that if we're preaching family and culture and togetherness, we're also going to try to play that way. On the defensive side of the ball, I don't think that unless something drastically changes, I do think that will stay pretty close to what we've been doing. I did my 2 years at Chattanooga. My last 3 years at Virginia Tech, I was the defensive coordinator. If you rewind it, I really wasn't a defensive guy per se. I mean, I enjoyed that side of the ball and scouting, but I really dove into it. We had Liz Kitley up there who was getting doubled and triple teamed, and Kenny's like, I need to focus on how to get doubles and triples off her. You go fix my defense. And, we were very, very scout-based pack line, and we weren't going to necessarily gamble a ton. We're going to keep the ball in front and be very, very disciplined. We were top 15 in the country the last 3 years there. Both my years at Chattanooga was the exact same. I thought even when we played Power 5 opponents at the mid-major level, we did a really good job on the defensive side of the ball. We had to score the ball better than we did, obviously, but I think that comes with, obviously, you're at Clemson and you're recruiting a caliber of player that's a little bit, better per se than the mid-major talent that we had. Now, I also am a believer that I'm going to put a product out there that's going to have a chance to win games, right? I think that sometimes that as a coach, you can say, hey, we're going to play fast and we're going to shoot a bunch of threes. And all that sounds great, but if it doesn't give you the best chance to win, then we're not going to do that, right? And so how fast we play will be determined on what this group does when they come together, right? Can we make good decisions while we play fast? Can we play efficiently while we play fast? I do think transition offense is the hardest to scout. So we love to get opportunities out in transition, but we're going to play at a speed that gives us the best chance to win.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's just throw this ball up right now because that sounds great. Excited to watch it. So let's talk about some of these players that you brought in, because for you, like getting a Power 5 job now, obviously it's great, but the stress of the portal has to be crazy for 2 months. And you've done a great job in the portal, bringing in Loyal McQueen from Alabama, who is actually from Florence, South Carolina. Super excited about her. Anya Poole from North Carolina, who was a very highly rated recruit before she got to UNC and did really well there. And then you brought over Raven and Hannah from Chattanooga. I want to talk about that too. So those are kind of the 4 players that stand out to me a bit. And then, of course, you return an Ino Inyang, who I think the ceiling for her could be crazy. Maddie Cluse, I've heard really good things. Just get some Clemson fans excited about some of this new personnel.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, again, the blueprint of Virginia Tech is very similar. We're not just going to go get people, right? We're going to get puzzle pieces. It's something we talk a lot about that fit and mesh together. So was it a lot and nerve-wracking? Absolutely. You always feel like you need more. But I do like the pieces we put together. First and foremost, they're good people, right? They're going to represent our program and our university, and not only on the court, but in the community and on our campus. Loyal McQueen was a big-time gift for us. We had 0 point guards on our roster when we got here. That's like having 0 quarterbacks there, Eric. So,
not ideal.
I don't think that's a good thing, right? And so, she goes in the portal. I had a relationship with her from a long, long time ago. 13, 14 years old, recruiting her at Virginia Tech. And what you're going to hear, the story becomes very, very similar through all this process. For kids that I had relationships with at some point in their career, which made me feel a lot more comfortable. This isn't a watch 2 minutes of a synergy clip and say, yeah, let's go get them, right? It's we knew their game. We knew them as people. We know their families. And Loyal coming back into her home state, she wants to play home and play a role that I think that she's going to be very, very valuable to us, and it's going to be a must. I think she's very talented with the ball in her hand. Played 40 minutes in both the first and second round games this past year in NCAA tournament, so she's a winner. And I'm excited to get the ball in her hands and play, obviously, in some ball screen stuff, but I think she can also score off the ball. I think you mentioned, again, Anya Poole is another one that I had recruited a long, long time ago when she's young, and her youngest brother was our kid's age back then, and now you watch them all grow up. I had a front row seat, obviously, at Virginia Tech, watching her at Carolina for, her first 3 years. She was very, very valuable. Starter on a Sweet 16 team, just a physical post player that I think is a little bit more capable than maybe what her numbers may have shown. I think that she was very efficient when she had the ball on the block. She can stretch out to 15, maybe even to the 3. That's something we're going to try to develop this summer. And I think there's more opportunity, right? And I don't want to take anything away from what they've done. They've had a lot of success, but throwing it inside wasn't a big, big priority. And I think that we can get her a little bit more touches and try to rely on that efficiency. I think she'll be a really, really – she's going to need to be, right? Because we didn't have very many bodies inside. Obviously, you mentioned Eno, who had played some backup minutes. The thing I've been very impressed with her, we inherited her. You hear some stories, and now she's been living in the gym, right? I mean, she's staying here all summer. She did not go home. She's been in here. I think there's an excitement for her. It's a new opportunity, and she's really grasped that tight. I was able to bring a couple with us from Chattanooga. And again, I get it. It's mid-major to big girl basketball, as we call it. And there's going to be some adjusting there. Raven Thompson was a phenomenal player for us at Chattanooga. We're going to have to figure out how does that translate consistently, right? She had some success against Power 5 opponents at that mid-major level, but it's different, right? She was a mismatched kid, and we're going to try to figure out how to use that and take advantage of it. She was dang near a double-double for us for 2 years in a row. The one that I think that does translate to Hannah Cone. I mean, she was the third best 3-point shooter in the country a year ago. Coming out of high school, hit 19 threes in a high school game. I think she's top 3, maybe all-time career high school 3-point shooting, right? That translates. I don't care where you're at. The kid can flat out shoot it. And
That's incredible.
that right there gives you some spacing, and
Right.
I'm super excited to get her. That was an interesting deal. Obviously, had a really good freshman year. Really came on late for us into the tournament, or our Southern Conference tournament. And she's, I get the job. I'd love to bring you. And she says, Coach, can I play at that level? I'm like, why am I asking you? She goes in the portal, and then all of a sudden, everyone's calling. I told you could play here, and you have an ability that translates. I don't care where you're at. So, so that's a handful of them. There's so many more. Tessa Miller come from Belmont. I think a sleeper. Not many people are talking about it. The schedule that Bart puts together at Belmont, I think she played against 7 Power 5 opponents last year, including Stanford, Georgia. She averaged 15 and 8 against Power 5 opponents, right? She had over 100 assists at the 5 position. She's a skilled kid that can pass, and she's tough. I love the ability that she can play the 4-5 for us a little bit. I think another one, Mia Moore, coming out of UAB. She was a kid that went to Mississippi State out of high school, fought a couple injuries and really never got it going down there. But again, was one of those kids that was very highly recruited out of high school, goes down to UAB and has a monster year, averaged 9 rebounds a game at a 5'6", 5'7" guard. She's just tough, right? And I think she has some shiftiness to her that can get us into the paint. She's a very uncanny ability to get both feet in the paint. Now we got to make decisions and those kind of things. But I'm super excited about her as well. And Maddie Cluse, I think you mentioned before, had a really good start to the year before she got injured. And she had surgery there just after the new year. She's, in a sense, making progress almost all the way back. I think with how we play, how we develop, I think she could have a really breakout year for us. She's really kind of dove into just how we do things. So that's a pretty good chunk of the pieces. There's more out there, but again, I'm really, really excited about. Again, I just mentioned a bunch of people, but they're different puzzle pieces. I don't think we have a bunch of the same, which will allow us to play different styles and different skill sets. So how are we going to play? We'll figure that out through the summer. My staff's asking me the same question. I'm like, let's get them here and get them working out together, and we'll figure that exact style out as the summer goes on.
Yeah, and I know this is an impossible question, but you danced around it right there for a little bit. And it's June. I get that too, and we don't quite know what the team's going to look like. But just from you personally, man, and you're a guy that has had great success everywhere you've been, and I know there's probably really lofty expectations. But what does success look like year one for you, to where you're like, yeah, okay, we did well, we did good, I feel good about where we are?
That's a really good question. I've never been a numbers guy. Like, we're trying to win this many games. I do know that we're playing in the toughest women's basketball conference in the country. Is it different though, right? It used to be pods. Now you're playing everybody once, and we get Georgia Tech twice. We're going to have to figure out what that looks like. Our non-conference schedule, we get the defending national championships here in Littlejohn, right? We got the SEC challenge. I don't know what that's going to look like. We're playing an Alabama team in a Thanksgiving tournament. I think we'll get another SEC opponent in a Christmas tournament. So we've built a schedule, I think, that can help prepare us for when we get to the ACC. With that said, I'm more of the it factor, right? It's something we talk about all the time. It's not one that you can really put on paper. What does this look like? But when you come watch us, you're going to feel it and you're going to see it. And I think that that's something we will focus on every day. How do we create that it factor, that togetherness, that excitement for one another, and then trust us as coaches that all that put together, we're going to win enough basketball games. Do I think we can compete to get to an NCAA tournament this year? Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind that we can do that if we slowly make progress. I think we have enough talent in place. We got to change our mindset, right? That's something that this summer will be really, really big on because there has not been success. Sometimes it's hard to believe that. It's a culture thing, a belief thing. I think that when we get this thing all put together, That is not a lofty goal, in my opinion. It's something that is very, very attainable. How many wins to get there? I don't know. When you play in the toughest league in the country, you have plenty of opportunity to do it. So we'll just focus one day at a time. And I think that's something that we could definitely strive for here in year one.
You mentioned toughest league in the country, and I think that's not even disputable at this point. When I put out these numbers, but I believe it was the ACC had put 6 different teams in the Final Four in the last 10 years. Like, that's absurd. And then, of course, you're adding Stanford, which is fun for everybody. So for your perspective, Coach, because you were at Virginia Tech for a while, and you know what it takes to win in the ACC, what makes the ACC so tough, but also what does it take to win in this league?
Yeah, it takes a lot of toughness, right? When you think about a schedule, and ours hasn't necessarily come out yet, but I think what makes us the best and the toughest league in the country is from top to bottom. You just mentioned 6 teams in the last 10 years have been to a Final Four. When you got to go to Louisville, right, and let's say you don't play your best and you get beat up, you got to have a short-term memory and some toughness to figure out how you got to go to Duke the following Sunday and try to beat Duke. There's another top 25 team. And then all of a sudden, let's say that those two don't go well and you come home against a middle tier team. Well, the 9th best team in the league is going to the NCAA tournament. So you play them on a next Thursday. You better be tough enough. You can't feel sorry for yourself. You got to keep going. But also then when you get some momentum, how do you continue to push that thing forward? I think that's what makes us the toughest league. It's not only at the very top, but you get all the way to the middle towards, again, you had a Stanford. Cal is no joke. You think about some of the upcoming teams in this league. It's North Carolina last year, what were they, 8th, 9th in the league? I mean, are we kidding? That's a blue blood school, right? And so that's what I mean by it. You better have some toughness, but a short-term memory when things aren't going well. How do we get ourselves right back on track? Because it is a gauntlet when you get in the middle of it. And very similar. We keep talking about Virginia Tech, and it's just what we talked about when we got there, is that you look at the schedule and you're like, dang, we got to play Carolina. Then we got to go play Lou. You say all these names, and it's our goal to say, we're going to be one of those names, right? So that when somebody else is looking at the schedule, it's not that W you put by it. It's oh gosh, we got to go to Clemson. Are you kidding me? That's a tough one. And so that's what our goal will be, is to get into that conversation to where we are part of that tough gauntlet that people have to go through.
Coach, we can't wait. We're super excited for this season to start. We also talked with Coach Duffy up at Virginia Tech, to your point. Some really exciting new coaches in the ACC. And have you been able to chat with kind of this new group, if you will? Because we've had so many, for better or worse, so many legends leave the ACC recently with, Coach McGraw, Coach Myers, one. Have you been able to have any conversations like that?
Yeah, we were just at down on Amelia Island a couple weeks ago. It's where Mac, we got a chance to sit.
Oh, I heard. You guys hung out.
And it was really neat to sit around the table, because I think the one thing that is going to be different, especially from my experience, is the league, although really, really good, the styles have now changed a little bit, right? Like, I think for the longest time, if you went and played Miami, and she obviously did an unbelievable job, their style was just tough and going to just, you're in for a battle, right? And not that they're still going to be tough, but I think their style is going to be a lot different of how they play. We're going to have to get used to the West Coast, right, of how Stanford plays in the Princeton, and I'm assuming that'll stay the same, but that's a whole new change, right? What will that look like? And so I think that we got to have to adjust to a bunch of different new styles, but it's been fun to listen. Obviously, Coach Duffy and what she's done in her career, they've been tough, but more of that skilled and running a bunch of actions. And so we have to learn the league all over again, I think. But I think it's all for the better, in a sense of we've put some really good coaches in this league. We have some really good players. And like I said, Clemson's now just trying to get a part of that conversation, and we will.
Awesome. Thank you, Coach. We appreciate your time. Hopefully you can, I don't know, do you have an official visit coming up, or you got something going on, I'm sure.
We have a couple days, hopefully, to try to get my feet on the ground. I did take vacation last week. Okay.
Good.
My wife, every signee we got from the time we got the job, because we had this vacation planned again in January because there was no plan to move.
Right.
And, so every signee we got, instead of saying, how good are they? What position? She's like, how many more until we still get vacation? That's how the last 6 weeks it went. We were able to take vacation last week, which I thought was much needed with my family. It's been a tough transition. We got a couple of days, and then we do have some visits coming in this weekend. So
That's awesome.
Wait, I did lie. Mac, I lied. There's one more because you bring up you have 3 sons. Your oldest, he does some work for you on the bench, right?
that is a true statement. Yes, he is my stool guy, right? So long story short, he was acting a fool a couple years ago on a weekend, and I said, listen, man, you act better this weekend. On Wednesday, we play Georgia State. You get to come on your first road trip with Dad, no mom. You come on the bus, you get to travel with us. So he does. Acts great for 4 days or whatever it was. Hops on the bus. We get down there. He's warming up, rebounding for the girls. I'm back in the locker room. I come out for the game, and I said, all right, go sit up with our point guard, Addie Grace, who's coming here. I said, go sit up with her family up there for the game. He's like, no, I'm on the bench. I was like, no, buddy, I don't think we're ready for that. He says, yeah, my staff had given him the duty to do the school for timeouts. I'm like, oh, this ought to be good, right? Yeah. So they had obviously amped him up, hyped him up. You're our good luck charm, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Long story, again, this has now become a long story, but we get to the first timeout, we're up like 20-4, and he comes tapping me on the leg. Dad, I told you I'm your good luck charm. I'm like, bro, there's 35 more minutes left in this game. Get your butt back down there and work on the stool. And so we fast forward this thing all the way to the very end. I think we're up, it doesn't matter, 18 or something, under a minute. They call timeout. Again, I get a tap on the leg. I look down, and he says, Dad, I got to pee. I said, son, there's 42 seconds left. He said, I got to pee now. That was my first experience. He then got into it. This past year at Chattanooga, we lost one conference game all year. It was the one game he did not sit on the bench with us.
No way.
He had some buddies up in the stands that he wanted to sit with everybody. So we blame our one loss this last year in the league on him.
Wow.
And then, of course, we get the NCAA tournament, and they give a whole special to him doing the stool duty, and he's dang near mimicking me on the thing. He took all my shine away. But yeah, he's a big part of. But that's back to the family thing. You know, we're creating that inside of our program, but we're going to live it too. And I'm trying to give my 3 boys unbelievable big sisters that they don't have at home.
That's amazing, man. Golly. Well, we're jacked up. Grateful for you, and thanks for your time, man.
I appreciate y'all anytime, and I can't wait for y'all to get back on campus. Come see us.
That's right.
Thanks again to Coach Duffy and Coach Poppie for joining us. As they both talked about, they are probably 2 of the busiest coaches on the planet, because when you're taking over a new program, it's just crazy with the portal and all that. But really excited to watch these 2 teams this season. And I'm just excited for basketball season. As you know, I live in that perpetual state, and we'll be there before you know it. We'll get there. But I'm going to do a little teaser, Mac, because we said it's Women's Basketball Week. So maybe that doesn't mean just one episode.
Come on.
I think we're going to add another episode. It's going to come out on Wednesday, and we're going to talk with, no big deal, an All-American, Olivia Miles from Notre Dame. She will join us on Wednesday, so make sure you come back for that episode. Both Coach Duffy and Shawn Poppie were talking about how tough this league is. So in that vein, I think Notre Dame could legitimately win the national championship this year. Wow. I really do. And I know how good South Carolina is going to be. I know how good Southern Cal is going to be. I know how good all these other programs are going to be. UConn, of course, with Beckers coming back. But Notre Dame with Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo, plus the pieces they brought in, plus Westbeld and Citron, and we'll talk about that on Wednesday. Just stay tuned. Mark the tape. We'll see. About what Notre Dame
we'll see. We've got a lot more to talk about with them in just a second. I can't wait. You'll see that over on Wednesday. It's going to be really fun. And loved what she was talking. Love the conversations. You'll see what I mean on Wednesday. Come on back. We continuously need y'all's help. Come over to YouTube, subscribe to the channel, jump on this party with us. We've got some awesome interviews coming up. And we are close, KG, to our coaches' interviews. We just knocked out one the other day, which is crazy to think we're so close to this. But I cannot wait. Cannot wait for you guys to hear this and just feel the excitement that's in ACC football. So we'll continue to do that. And, of course, the OGs over on Apple Podcasts, rate, review, subscribe there as well. We would greatly appreciate that. But until next time, we'll see y'all.
it.